It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business, with all the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation. Call us at 305-541-2350. Follow us on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. Ari, thanks for joining us. Todd, of course, thanks for joining us. I want to set the stage because now I really want to, first a little bit was a little joking, but now I do want to jump into some very serious business. Ari and I have been in business for many years together, and we face, as a company, some tough times. And we learned the hard way what companies need to do to work themselves out of hard times and to recognize it. And we actually started an advisory business about 4 years ago to assist other companies in working themselves out of problems, either mid-sized companies or real estate projects. And I really wanted Ari and asked him to be on the show to talk about that because I see time and time again businesses that people put their life, their sweat in, and they don't recognize when they're in trouble and they don't know how to get out of trouble. So let's focus on that. Todd, you jump in. Wanda, I know you'll jump in. My wife's texting me all the time. So how's your day going, Ar, first?
My day's going great. I want to point out that as I was sitting here actually standing and pacing thinking, I realized that we have worked together for 22 years. I'm 41 years old, so not only you've been my brother for my entire life, we've actually worked together for the majority of my life. And we haven't killed each other yet.
A couple punches along the way, a couple body head slams, but that's details. That's details amongst brothers. No. I'm joking with you. I'm joking. No, the truth is you've been a pleasure, and we have another partner, Ori Shoham, an absolute pleasure to work with. But Aaron, let's focus on, because what I see and what I know you see all the time is when companies are under stress and when real estate projects is under stress, a lot of times they don't see the stress coming. And I believe, and I know we've talked about it, I know you believe that companies and real estate projects have to deal with the problems earlier on in the game to solve the problems in a more of a decisive blow. And I want to spend the first few minutes, let's talk about what the problems are. And I don't know if you want to start or, I'll start. And then we could spend what they need to do to solve the problems. Because it seems to me that our clients or potential clients are always making the same mistake over and over. And it just kills me when I see them making the mistake. You want to hold them back and you want to say, hey, bozo, don't do this for your own good. But they just keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah, most problems in life, whether they be financial problems or relationship problems or health problems, a lot of people wait until it's too late, or at least they wait until it's much harder than it needs to be. So one of the things I want to talk about today is exactly what you said. How to identify when you're having a problem. And then we're going to say, and then what kind of steps can you take to solve it early on, before it becomes a major problem? So some of the things in terms of real estate partnerships, when you can identify that you're having a problem early, is vacancy. If statistically you run that your property, whatever it is, has a 90% occupancy, then all of a sudden you wake up one day and realize it's much worse than that. You got a problem. You got to focus on it. Same thing with delinquency. If you have tenants, all of a sudden they're not paying, and at a much later rate than usual. You have to focus on it. Cash flow is the biggest indicator. If your business is used to having a certain amount of money in the bank, and all of a sudden you realize that that's dropping down significantly, or even worse, you're taking money out of your own personal pocket or out of good ventures to put them in this venture, you have to stop. You have to start questioning yourself. You have to realize, right now I have an issue and I need to deal with it now before it becomes too big. Some of the other things that we've seen in the past, Jack, is deferred maintenance on real estate. If people all of a sudden stop servicing their air conditioners and stop attending to the roof and let the landscaping go because of lack of money, these things aren't going to correct themselves. You have to deal with them. And you can apply the same examples to any type of business. If your sales are off, if all of a sudden you're cutting back on marketing, not because the marketing's not worthwhile, because you don't have the money. If all of a sudden you're losing clients, You need to stop now. You need to roll up your sleeves, and you need to start getting tough because your business is on the line.
I agree. A couple other things, squeezed margins, problems with lenders. A lot of times banks and lenders will put pressure on borrowers, whether they be operating businesses or real estate. If they put you in special assets, you're in trouble. You need to deal with it. Negative cash flow, which you talked about. Building accounts receivable is a big problem. Declining sales, lack of good financials, projections. The problem is, as I see it, most people have their head in the sand, and they think their little adjustments that they're going to make themselves are going to solve the problem. And the reality is sometimes it does solve the problem, but there's a lot of times it doesn't. And usually when they go to a professional like us, I'll give us a plug, it's not always too late, but sometimes too late. So I think people need to move faster in a more decisive manner when they have a business problem or a problem with the real estate, and bring in people who know what they're doing sometimes.
Look, a business was worth fighting for to build. It needs to be worth fighting for to save. And problems generally don't go away on their own. Nobody ever loses significant weight on their own. Nobody beats cancer by chance. You have to work at it. You have to roll up your sleeves and get tough.
So what are some of the things that people should be doing, Ar, when they have a problem either in an operating business or in a piece of real estate? Let's go through the list, because there's a lot of commonality to when people get in trouble. And you can only see it when you see it not just from your business, from a global perspective.
As you know, Jack, we have looked at a lot of business and seen a lot of real estate projects. The one thing that I found, the commonality between almost everyone in trouble, is the owner starts to get removed from their clients. In the beginning, when the owner was building, they knew every single client. They dealt with every problem. But as they grow, they get salespeople and customer service people, and it's the same thing with real estate. You knew the original tenants, but as you grow, some leasing agent puts them in. You don't visit the property so often. So the first thing, in my opinion, you need to do is pick up the phone, call your clients, go see them. If it's a real estate partnership, go see your tenants. Go talk to the biggest tenants. Find out what's going on from their point of view. Your salespeople and your staff are only going to tell you what you want to hear. There's a lot of sycophants out there, a lot of people who don't want to upset the apple cart. They're going to say, yeah, everything's good. Well, you're losing clients. By the time you realize that they're wrong, it's too late. So if you pick up the phone and start calling your best clients and your oldest clients, your biggest clients, and say, how's the service going? What's going on? They're going to tell you the truth. The same thing with tenants. You go to a property that you own, and you may drive through the parking lot once in a while, but you ask the tenant who's there every single day, what's going on with this property? What do you think of it? Why do you think that we're having trouble with vacancy? They're going to be able to tell you.
I agree. So I'll say it a different way. Focus on the details and micromanage. Because I see, again, it's the same thing you're saying. When you get too removed, and it's happened to us, you lose sight of things. Know when your clients are paying, know when they're not going to pay. I had a case last week, and it turned out to be a sad outcome. The accounts receivable became higher, and through the process of the workout and bringing in new financing, we realized, or the ownership realized, that a lot of the accounts receivable were sent out incorrectly. They didn't have the right codes on them, and the companies didn't pay them for 5-6 months. And ultimately, the company went out of business because some goofball in the accounts receivable department made a mistake, and no one caught it because the owners weren't as hands-on as they should be. So you got to micromanage, I think, every little detail, stay on top of every little detail, because unfortunately, a lot of times the staff and the vendors don't. They'll do shortcuts, and shortcuts always come back to bite you.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing I would add to that is that you best learn what details are missing by getting out of your seat. Stop talking to the people that you normally talk to. Talk to your clients. I would venture to say, if that person would have went to the accounting department and said, why aren't we getting paid on these receivables? The accounting department would have made up some excuse. Oh, they'll pay, it'll be okay, or who knows what. But if they would have went to the client directly and said, why aren't you paying us? And the client would have told them the billing's wrong. And then they would have known it quicker. And maybe they could have saved their business.
I agree. I think you need to micromanage and focus on the details. You can't get so crazy with the details, but when things are bad, you need to look at every detail, because life is a compilation of little details that add up to big things.
100%. Step number 2 is you got to cut the fat. As we grow, it's very easy just to keep spending money and you forget about what you're spending it on, and vendors start raising prices on you, and you're not paying attention because you're happy, you're making money, you're enjoying life. But when times are tough, you got to review every single contract and say, am I getting the best deal? Should I switch the vendor? Can I beat up the vendor or negotiate to get a better price? Even with staff. Look, laying off staff is one of the worst things there is to do in business. But if you have people that are not performing, that are just there coasting, I might have to make a tough decision. And the key factor, the question you should be asking yourself with every single employee is, if that person quit today, would I try to talk them out of it, or would I secretly be happy? If you wouldn't try to talk them out of it and you'd be happy, then you really have to evaluate whether that person deserves their seat, deserves their salary, and is adding to the business. But I do want to put out a word of caution there. Is you can't go crazy with cuts. You can't start cutting things that are valuable to your clients. I think it was 2 days ago, a fitness club owner called me, and he was in major, major financial problems, contemplating filing Chapter 11. Literally, the creditors are threatening to come pick up the gym equipment. So we're talking about one of the cuts that he made is he cut daycare. In his fitness center, he had a lot of moms come. They came for classes. So when he cut daycare, he thought that he was cutting his expenses, but he lost a lot of clients because of it. And once you lose the clients because of it, it's very, very tough to get them back.
So you got to make the cuts, but you can't. At the same time you have to make the cuts, you really have to make an investment in sales and marketing, and that's the balance I think most people get messed up on. Is they cut the sales and marketing, and they cut what brings in money, and they leave the executives and the all the back room in place. And I think it has to be the opposite. They have to cut to the core. And I know we've made the mistake every time, and we've been in business a long time. Every time we've cut deeply, we've been fine. But the couple times we cut not so deeply because we were scared of it, it came back to bite us. So my advice on that would be cut as deep as humanly possible on the core, but not on the sales and marketing, because you actually have to focus on sales and marketing and readjust yourself to bring in more business.
100% correct. I would also add sales and marketing to that, retention. It's hard to get a client. It's much easier to keep an existing client. So that goes along with what I said earlier. Reach out to your clients. Make sure they're happy. If they're not, start taking corrective action. They'll tell you the truth, and you know what? They'll be grateful that you called. They'll know that you care about them. But 100% out, you got to get out there and market. You got to bring in new revenue. You got to bring in new business. And you know what? Nobody is going to be as passionate about your business or your project as you. You can hire whoever you want, and they might have the greatest resume in the world, but nobody is going to care as much as you do about your clients and about the growth of your business.
No, I agree. We see it every day. Every day of the week we see it. Another thing I want to talk about is the conservation of cash. A lot of times when people are in trouble, and their banks start calling and their creditors start calling, to keep people happy, spend money. So if they start off with X dollars in the bank, $1, they'll pay their banks, they'll pay their credit cards. And really, when you're in a workout mode, you have to become very selfish. And you have to do what's best for the business, and there's a divergence of interest between you and your creditors, and you have to stockpile cash and use that cash for the absolute bare minimum, and to either buy off the debt, pay out the debt when necessary, or use to invest in sales and marketing. So I know we made that mistake. I have a lot of clients who make that mistake. So, do you have anything to? What do you think of that, Ari? Save cash. It's my lesson.
First of all, you're 100% correct, as usual. But I would say it's not selfish at all.
Wait, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said you're 100% correct, as usual. I didn't say as always. I said as usual. But I would argue it's not selfish at all. If you have a bank or a lender or an investor, and you're supposed to pay them X amount of money a month, and in order to pay them X amount of money a month, you cut marketing, and you do that to make them happy, I would actually argue that that's being selfish. You know why? Because you don't want the pain of having to make that tough phone call, and you're jeopardizing their long-term repayment. The only way that they're going to get paid back, especially if it's an unsecured loan or if the security is challenged in any way, is if the business thrives. And if you pay them back, you're not quicker and take that money out of marketing, you are not doing them a favor at all. You're actually doing them a disservice.
You know what? With that, I got a break. We have a hard commercial and traffic. Stay on the phone because there's so much more we want to cover. And this is great stuff. So hold on for a minute, Ari and Todd. Wanda, let's take us